Mommy will be back soon, sweetheart. I promise. Have you ever made a promise you couldn't keep? Sasha Johnson has. Those were the last words she spoke to her 7-year-old daughter before Mia vanished from the Riverside Farmers Market 3 years ago. 30 seconds. That's all it took. Sasha turned to pay the strawberry vendor, the elderly man with kind eyes who always gave Mia an extra berry. She fumbled for exact change, distracted by Mia's excited chatter about the birthday cake they would bake. Purple frosting with edible daisies, just like her favorite dress. Keep the change, Sasha said, handing over $20. She turned back, strawberries in hand. But Mia wasn't there. The spot where her daughter had been standing, right beside the wooden crate of lettuce, was empty. The purple dress with the daisy pattern was nowhere to be seen. Mia? Sasha's voice came out calm at first. Mia, this isn't funny. Come out right now. Nothing. Mia. Louder now, panic creeping in. Other shoppers turned to look. Sasha dropped the strawberries. They burst open, red juice spreading across concrete like blood. She was already running, spinning in circles, scanning the Saturday morning crowd. Mia. Somebody help me. My daughter. She was right here. Have you ever seen a mother realize her child is gone? Not lost, gone. The sound Sasha made wasn't quite human. It was a heartbreaking in real time. Market vendors abandoned their stalls. Shoppers joined the search. Someone called 911. Within minutes, the peaceful market transformed into a frantic search operation. What was she wearing? A woman asked, clutching her own child. Purple dress. With daisies. Sasha's voice shook. Dark brown hair, just past her shoulders. She has a birthmark, shaped like a crescent moon on her left wrist. Gap between her front teeth. She's 7. Mia Johnson. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, like the video, and comment where you are watching from. Turn on notifications too. Okay, let's jump back in. Police arrived 12 minutes later. Officers Thompson and Rodriguez took her statement while Sasha paced. Did you see anyone suspicious? Officer Thompson asked. Sasha's mind was static and panic. No. It was crowded. I only looked away for a second. How long exactly? 30 seconds. Maybe 45. I was paying for strawberries. Security footage was reviewed immediately. Sasha watched the grainy videos over and over, hands trembling. There she was, turning to pay. There was Mia, standing beside the lettuce crate. And then, nothing. Between frames, Mia simply disappeared. No suspicious figures. No struggle. It was as if her daughter had been erased from existence. By 2 p.m., search dogs tracked Mia's scent to the parking lot edge, where it abruptly stopped. No trail. No clues. By 5 p.m., Mia's face was on the news. Missing child alert. Mia Johnson, age 7. By 8 p.m., Sasha's ex-husband Jake arrived, his face twisted with rage. How could you take your eyes off her? How could you be so careless? I was paying for strawberries, Sasha whispered. Our daughter is gone because you couldn't watch her for 30 seconds. Detective Sarah Chen, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, placed herself between them. Mr. Johnson, blame won't help us find Mia. But Jake was already walking away, shoulders shaking. He would blame Sasha forever. By midnight, the market was empty except for police tape and Sasha, who refused to leave. She sat on the pavement where Mia had last stood, surrounded by dried strawberry stains. Detective Chen sat beside her in silence. No witnesses. No footage. No trail. I promised her, Sasha whispered. I promised I'd be right back. Chen put a hand on her shoulder. We'll find her, Ms. Johnson. I promise you, we won't stop looking. But 3 years later, that promise would remain unfulfilled. The case would go cold. The tips would dry up. The media would move on. And Sasha would be left with memories, nightmares, and a broken promise. 3 years. 1,095 days. 26,280 hours. Sasha would count every one. Until today. Today, Sasha would receive a text about a cleaning job at a mansion. Today, she would walk through iron gates into a billionaire's world of cold luxury and dark secrets. Today, she would hear a laugh that would stop her heart. Because sometimes, broken promises find their way back to us in the most terrifying ways imaginable. 3 years. 1,095 days. 26,280 hours. Sasha had counted every single one. The alarm buzzed at 5:47 a.m., the time Mia used to wake up, padding into Sasha's room with her stuffed elephant Mr. Trumpets, asking for chocolate chip pancakes. Sasha still set the alarm, even though there was no child to wake, no pancakes to make. She silenced it and reached for Mr. Trumpets beside her pillow. The gray elephant was worn thin from 3 years of nightmares, its left ear torn from when Mia had loved it too enthusiastically. Sasha pressed it to her chest and allowed herself 60 seconds of grief before getting up. The routine never varied. It kept her functional. First, check the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children database. Mia's page was still there, her 7-year-old face frozen in time. The view counter had stopped climbing. 317 views the first week. 42 the first month. Now maybe 1 or 2 a week from Sasha herself. Second, scroll through social media. Facebook groups for missing children. Instagram cold case accounts. TikTok videos from amateur sleuths. Every lead turned out to be nothing, a similar-looking child, facial recognition glitches, well-meaning people who saw missing children everywhere. Third, get ready for work. The bathroom mirror reflected someone Sasha barely recognized. Hollow eyes with permanent dark circles, prominent cheekbones from skipped meals, hair graying at 32. She looked like what she was, a ghost haunting her own life. The apartment was much smaller than the one she and Mia had shared. After losing her dental hygienist job, too many breakdowns, too many days she couldn't function, savings evaporated quickly. Now she lived in a studio with water stains and paper-thin walls. But Mia's things were still here. All of them. One wall was a shrine. School photos showing Mia's gap-toothed smile. Drawings of stick figures holding hands. The purple dress with daisies, preserved in a garment bag. The closet held Mia's size 7 clothes, waiting for a child who would never wear them. 3 birthday cakes sat in the freezer, one for each year Mia had been gone. Her phone buzzed. Detective Sarah Chin. Sasha, got a call about a possible sighting in Portland. Sending details, but description doesn't match well. Don't want to get your hopes up. How are you holding up? Sasha didn't respond. She'd learned not to hope after the first dozen false leads. Each one was its own small death. Chen still called every few weeks. Most detectives would have moved on, but Chen had a daughter of her own. She'd promised they wouldn't stop looking. 3 years without a solid lead had taken its toll on both of them. The support group for parents of missing children had been Chen's suggestion. Sasha went 3 times before she couldn't bear it anymore. A father talked about his son missing 8 years. A mother described accepting her daughter was probably dead. The statistics were worse, after 3 months, chances dropped dramatically. After 3 years? Everyone in that basement already knew. Jake had given up. He'd remarried 8 months ago and moved to Colorado, as far from the memory as geography allowed. The last time they spoke, he'd said, "She's gone because of you. Because you couldn't do the one job a mother has, keep her child safe." Part of Sasha, the part that woke in cold sweats, agreed with him. Now her phone buzzed again. Her supervisor at Pristine Services, the cleaning company she'd worked for since losing her license. Assignment for today, Haas Manor, 1247, Bellingham Estate Drive. Full day service. $300. Client requests discretion and thoroughness. This is a high-priority client, Sasha. Please be professional. $300. More than she usually made in 2 days. Her rent was 12 days overdue. She texted back, "I'll take it." Sasha pulled on work clothes, jeans, faded t-shirt, comfortable shoes, hair in a ponytail. She grabbed her supply bag. Then, like every day, she picked up Mr. Trumpets and pressed him to her face. "I'm still looking, baby," she whispered. "Mommy's still looking." The drive to Bellingham Estate Drive took 45 minutes, carrying her from rundown streets into a world she'd only seen in movies. Houses got larger with each mile. By the time she reached the address, she wasn't looking at houses anymore. She was looking at estates. Haas Manor sat behind iron gates that belonged on a medieval castle. The mansion was sprawling modern architecture and classical elements, all sharp angles and floor-to-ceiling windows. The property stretched back acres, manicured gardens and absolute privacy. Sasha pressed the intercom. "Pristine Services. I'm here for the 9 o'clock appointment." The gates swung open silently. She drove up the long driveway, her 15-year-old sedan absurdly out of place among the luxury vehicles. The house loomed larger, its windows reflecting morning sun like cold, watchful eyes. Something about it made her uneasy, too perfect, too sterile, too much like a museum rather than a home. She parked near the service entrance and grabbed her supply bag. $300. Just another mansion, another day cleaning for people who'd never known loss. She walked toward the door, shoes crunching on imported gravel. She had no idea that in hours, she would hear a sound that would shatter everything. No idea that behind these walls, her daughter was alive. Changed, trained, renamed, but alive. No idea that 3 years of purgatory were about to end in the most terrifying way imaginable. The door opened. A stern woman in her 60s gestured her inside. "You're exactly on time." "Good. Mrs. Haas values punctuality. Come with me." Sasha stepped through the doorway into a world of cold luxury. And somewhere above, though she didn't know it yet, her daughter played in a gilded cage, waiting to be found. The mansion looked like something from a dystopian fairy tale, beautiful, cold, and vaguely threatening. Mrs. Lauren led Sasha through a service corridor nicer than any room in her apartment. Polished marble floors, walls in muted grays, air carrying the scent of expensive cleaning products. "Mrs. Haas is very particular about her home," Mrs. Lauren said crisply. "You'll start with the east wing, formal living areas, library, dining room. Use only the products I've set out. Don't touch anything personal or valuable." And, she fixed Sasha with a stern look. "The 3rd floor is completely off-limits. Family quarters. Mrs. Haas values her privacy above all else." "Understood," Sasha said quietly. Mrs. Lauren led her into the main house. The entry hall was massive, 40 feet high with a chandelier that belonged in a palace. Crystal drops caught light through floor-to-ceiling windows, throwing rainbow prisms across walls hung with original artwork. This single chandelier probably cost more than Sasha would make in a decade. The East Wing is through here, Mrs. Lauren continued down a hallway lined with more art, more marble. Mrs. Haas will want to meet you briefly. She likes to assess the help personally. Before Sasha could process the odd tone, they entered a formal living room, and she was there. Barbara Haas. She stood near windows, backlit by morning sun that made her platinum blonde bob glow. 54, according to the Forbes profile Sasha had glimpsed, tech billionaire, data security fortune, notoriously private. Impeccably dressed in clothes that cost more than a car, designer everything, beautiful in the way unlimited money could buy. But her eyes were ice blue and calculating, studying Sasha with intensity that made her skin crawl. Mrs. Haas, Mrs. Lauren said formally. This is Sasha Johnson from Pristine Services. Barbara smiled, but it didn't reach those cold eyes. Ms. Johnson. Thank you for coming. I trust Mrs. Lauren has explained my expectations. Yes, ma'am. Good. Barbara moved closer, predatory. The East Wing needs particular attention. We're hosting an event next week. But the third floor is strictly off-limits. Family quarters. I'm sure you understand the need for boundaries. Of course. Barbara's gaze traveled over Sasha, assessing, measuring, dismissing. You look tired, Ms. Johnson. I do hope you're up for a full day's work. Sasha swallowed the sting and nodded. She needed this job, needed that $300. I am. Thank you for the opportunity. Barbara's smile grew slightly. Mrs. Lauren will supervise. Do try not to break anything. Some items in this house are irreplaceable. She swept out, leaving behind expensive perfume and something else, something that made Sasha instinctively uneasy. Just do your work and don't go where you're not supposed to, Mrs. Lauren said quietly once Barbara was gone. But it sounded like a warning. Sasha spent 2 hours cleaning rooms that barely looked used. The formal living room with cream furniture showing no signs of being sat on. The library with leather-bound volumes that probably hadn't been opened in years. The dining room with a table for 20 set with crystal and china that had never seen food. Everything was beautiful. Everything was expensive. And everything felt utterly wrong. It wasn't just the sterility. Sasha had cleaned enough wealthy homes to recognize the difference between lived-in and staged. But there was something else nagging at her awareness. No family photos. In a 40-room mansion Barbara supposedly shared with her family, there wasn't a single personal photograph anywhere. No candid vacation shots, no school pictures. Rich people usually loved displaying their perfect families. But here? Nothing. Just expensive art and cold, empty perfection. Sasha cleaned mechanically, her mind drifting back to Mia, back to the farmer's market, back to those 30 seconds. She was dusting a hallway table when she heard it. Laughter. A child's laughter, echoing from somewhere above. The sound hit Sasha like a physical blow. She froze, duster suspended in mid-air, body going rigid. She hadn't heard a child laugh in 3 years. Couldn't bear to be around children, changed routes to avoid schools, left stores if she heard a child's voice. But this was different. There was something about the pitch, the rhythm, the way the giggle rose and fell that reached into Sasha's chest and squeezed her heart. It sounded like. No. That way led to madness. She'd heard Mia's voice in crowds before, seen her face in every dark-haired child, only to turn and find a stranger. Hope was poison. The laughter came again, floating down from above. The third floor. The forbidden family quarters. Her hands started trembling. The duster fell, clattering to marble. Ms. Johnson. Sasha spun. Mrs. Lauren stood in the doorway, expression sharp and assessing. "Are you all right? You look pale." "I'm fine." Sasha bent to retrieve the duster. "Just thought I heard something." "The third floor is soundproofed, mostly." Mrs. Lauren's voice was carefully neutral. "But occasionally sounds carry. Mrs. Haas's daughter sometimes plays loudly. Children, you know." "Daughter." Barbara Haas had a daughter. "How old?" The question escaped before Sasha could stop it. Mrs. Lauren's eyes narrowed. "I don't discuss Mrs. Haas's private affairs. And neither should you, if you want to continue working for pristine services. Now, the East Wing isn't going to clean itself." She left, but Sasha could feel she was being watched. This house had security cameras everywhere, small, subtle, mounted in corners. Barbara valued privacy but didn't extend it to employees. Sasha tried to focus on work. But her mind wouldn't settle. She kept hearing that laugh, kept feeling the wrongness seep into her bones. 40-room mansion. No family photos. A daughter on a forbidden floor. A billionaire with cold, calculating eyes. And that laugh. That impossible, familiar laugh. Sasha found herself drifting toward the back of the house until she reached a door marked "Staff Only." Behind it, stairs, the servants' staircase leading to all floors, including the forbidden one. She stood there, heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. This was insane. She was hearing things, making connections that didn't exist. She needed this job. She needed that $300. She couldn't lose another position because she couldn't control her trauma. But then the laughter came again, clearer this time. Floating down the stairwell like a ghost of everything Sasha had lost. And beneath the laughter, she heard something else. A voice. A child's voice, too muffled to make out words but not too muffled to recognize the tone, the cadence, the melody that belonged to. "Stop it," Sasha told herself fiercely. "You're losing your mind. You're hearing what you want to hear." But her hand was already moving toward the door handle. Her fingers closed around cool metal. And somewhere above, a child laughed again, the sound piercing through all of Sasha's carefully constructed defenses like they were made of paper. Her hands trembled on the banister as she stared up the servants' staircase, every muscle locked in conflict. Professional survival screamed at her to walk away, finish the job, collect her money. But mother's instinct, that primal, unbreakable force that had kept her searching for 3 years, whispered something else entirely. What if? Against every instruction, every professional boundary, every ounce of common sense, Sasha climbed the stairs. Each step felt like walking through water, her body moving while her mind screamed contradictions. You'll lose this job. You need this money. It's not her. It can't be her. But her feet kept climbing. The servants' staircase was narrow and steep, meant for staff to move unseen. Plain white walls, practical lighting. Sasha's footsteps were muffled by carpet, but her breathing sounded deafening. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. At the second-floor landing, she paused. She could still turn back. Still return to the East Wing, finish her work, collect her $300. But the laughter echoed down again, and her feet carried her upward. The third-floor hallway was completely different from the sterile perfection below. Plush carpet that swallowed footsteps. Oil paintings on the walls, softer, warmer landscapes and gardens meant to soothe rather than impress. 5 doors lined the hallway, all closed. All silent. Except the one at the very end. Through the crack, Sasha could see movement. Hear soft humming, a child's voice, tuneless and content, absorbed in play. Sasha moved forward like a sleepwalker, entire body trembling. Each step took an eternity. She was aware of every sound, the whisper of shoes on carpet, the rush of blood in her ears, the humming growing clearer. Her hand reached out, fingers shaking. She touched the door, feeling cool wood beneath her palm. And pushed it open. Time stopped. The room was enormous, a child's bedroom bigger than Sasha's entire apartment. Soft cream walls, furniture in whites and golds, a canopy bed draped with silk. Shelves lined with books and toys that looked like museum pieces. Everything perfect, everything expensive, everything curated. But Sasha barely saw any of it. Because there, in the center of the room, sat a little girl. She was playing with a Victorian dollhouse, hand-painted details, miniature furniture worth more than Sasha's car. Her dark hair was arranged in elaborate braids woven with small pearls. She wore an emerald velvet dress with an intricate lace collar. Everything about her screamed wealth, refinement, privilege. But none of that mattered. Because when the girl turned her head, Sasha's world exploded. It was Mia. 3 years older. Taller. Face less round, limbs longer. But unmistakably, impossibly, devastatingly Mia. The crescent moon birthmark on her left wrist was visible as she reached for a miniature chair. The same distinctive birthmark Sasha had kissed 1,000 times, described to police, that made Mia uniquely hers. The way she tilted her head, that curious, bird-like tilt Mia had done since she was a toddler, a gesture living in Sasha's muscle memory. And when she smiled at something in her play, there was the gap between her front teeth. But her eyes were different. They were Mia's eyes, the same warm brown. But they were vacant in a way Mia's had never been. Polished. Trained. Empty of the spark, the mischief, the wild imagination that had made Mia Mia. These were the eyes of a child trained to be someone else. Mia. The word fell from Sasha's lips like shattered glass, her voice breaking. The girl looked up, and for a fraction of a second, so brief Sasha might have imagined it, something flickered across her face. Recognition. Confusion. Then it was gone, replaced by a mask of perfect politeness. She stood gracefully, too gracefully for a 10-year-old, movements practiced and refined in a way that was profoundly wrong. "I'm sorry, but my name is Sophia. You must have me confused with someone else." The accent was different. Not the natural voice of the little girl who used to beg for extra bedtime stories. This was refined, taught, stripped of anything authentic. But it was still her. Sasha would know her daughter's face anywhere. "No." The word came out fierce, certain. "No, you're Mia. You're my daughter. Baby, it's me. It's mommy." All professional restraint shattered. Sasha lunged forward, crossing the distance in 2 strides. Her hands closed around Mia's arms, careful not to hurt, but desperate to touch, to confirm, to hold the child she'd thought lost forever. "Look at me, sweetheart. It's mommy. I've been looking for you. I never stopped looking. I kept my promise, baby. I came back." The girl pulled away, but not with the instinctive recoil of a child grabbed by a stranger. It was controlled, practiced, like she'd been trained for this exact scenario. "Please don't touch me." Her voice remained polite, but there was something underneath. Fear. Confusion. "Mrs. Haas doesn't like strangers touching me. You should go. You're not supposed to be here." "I'm not a stranger." Sasha's voice cracked, tears streaming. "Baby, I'm your mother. Don't you remember? Our apartment. Mr. Trumpets. The farmer's market. Your purple dress with the daisies." For a moment, just a moment, the girl's composure flickered. Her hand moved unconsciously to her left wrist, fingers brushing the crescent moon birthmark. Her eyes widened slightly, like something deep in her mind was trying to surface. I sometimes dream about. She shook her head, confusion clear. No. Mrs. Haas says I have an active imagination. That the dreams aren't real. I'm Sophia. I've always been Sophia. But her hands were trembling now. You used to be afraid of thunderstorms, Sasha said desperately. I would hold you and sing, "You are my sunshine," until you fell asleep. You had a stuffed elephant named Mr. Trumpets. You wanted to be a veterinarian because you loved animals so much. With each detail, the girl's mask cracked. Tears formed in her eyes, though she seemed confused by them. How do you know about? She touched her wrist again. I do dream about an elephant. And singing. And storms scare me, but I don't know why. Step away from my daughter. The voice was ice. Pure, crystalline ice that could freeze oceans. Sasha spun around. Barbara Haas stood in the doorway, phone already in her hand. But her face wasn't surprised. No shock at finding an intruder, no panic at a stranger grabbing her child. Her expression was calculating. Adjusting. Strategizing. Like she'd been prepared for this exact scenario and was simply recalibrating her response. Mrs. Haas, Sasha started, but Barbara cut her off. I said step away. Her voice carried absolute authority. Sophia, come here. Now. The girl moved immediately, muscle memory overriding confusion and tears. She crossed to Barbara's side, and Barbara's hand landed on her shoulder in a gesture that looked protective but felt possessive. This woman is clearly disturbed, sweetheart. Don't be frightened. Security will remove her shortly. That's my daughter. Sasha's voice was raw, desperate. Her name is Mia Johnson. She was kidnapped 3 years ago from Riverside Farmers Market. Check the birthmark. Check her dental records. That chip in her right molar, she fell off a swing when she was 5. Barbara's eyes narrowed, just slightly. But her voice remained calm, controlled. Sophia is my biological daughter. I have birth certificates, medical records, photographs documenting every year of her life. What I don't have is patience for delusional employees who violate boundaries and traumatize children. She raised her phone to her ear. Security to the 3rd floor. Immediately. We have an intruder who has assaulted my daughter. I didn't assault anyone. Sasha looked at Mia, pleading. Baby, please. Look at me. Really look at me. Don't you remember? Don't you remember anything? Mia's face was a war zone, confusion, fear, something deeper struggling to surface. Her lips parted. But Barbara's grip on her shoulder tightened, and the girl fell silent. Sophia has never seen you before in her life, Barbara said coldly. And she never will again. Heavy footsteps echoed up the stairs, security guards, moving fast. Sasha's eyes locked with Mia's one last time. The girl stared back, tears streaming, hand unconsciously touching that crescent moon birthmark. And in that moment, Sasha saw it. Clear as day. Recognition. Her daughter knew. Somewhere beneath the training, the false memories, the carefully constructed identity, Mia knew. I'll come back for you, Sasha whispered as security guards entered the room. I promise, baby. Mommy's coming back. Then hands were on her arms, pulling her backward. But Sasha wasn't afraid anymore. Because she'd found her daughter. And nothing, not money, not power, not 3 years of lies, would stop her from bringing Mia home. 2 security guards arrived within 60 seconds. But Sasha Johnson hadn't spent 3 years searching for her daughter only to walk away now. The guards were built like linebackers. The older one, Marcus, had cold ex-military demeanor. The younger one, David, looked barely out of his 20s, his face uncertain as he took in the scene. "Ms. Haas," Marcus said crisply. "What's the situation?" "This woman violated explicit instructions," Barbara said, voice steady and authoritative. "She assaulted my daughter and made disturbing claims. I want her removed immediately and charges filed for trespassing and attempted kidnapping." "I didn't assault anyone." Sasha wrenched free from Mrs. Lauren's grip, pulling out her phone with shaking hands. "That's my daughter. Her name is Mia Johnson. She was kidnapped 3 years ago." "Ma'am, you need to calm down," Marcus said, but his eyes flickered to the child, then back to Sasha. "Look." Sasha thrust her phone at them, swiping frantically through photos. "Look at these pictures. This is Mia at age 6. Age 7, right before she disappeared. Look at her face. Look at the birthmark on her wrist. It's the same child." David leaned in to look, and his expression shifted. He glanced at the girl beside Barbara, then back at the photos. The resemblance was undeniable: same dark hair, same face shape, same distinctive features. Those do look similar," David said slowly. "Similar?" Sasha's voice cracked. "It's identical. Because it's the same person." "This is absurd," Barbara said, but there was an edge now. "This woman lost a child years ago, tragic, truly, but now she's projecting onto mine. She needs psychiatric help, not encouragement." "Then explain the birthmark." Sasha turned to Mia. "Show them your left wrist, baby. The crescent moon. I've kissed that birthmark 1,000 times. I described it to police the day you disappeared." Mia's hand moved instinctively to her left wrist, fingers clutching the velvet sleeve, pulling it down. The gesture was automatic, unconscious, muscle memory of someone taught to hide something. "Sophia," Barbara said sharply. "You don't have to do anything this woman says." But David had caught the movement. "Ma'am," he addressed Barbara carefully, "would it be possible to just check? If there's no birthmark, this gets cleared up right now." "My daughter's body is not evidence in this woman's delusion," Barbara snapped. "Actually," Sasha said, her voice steadying with righteous anger, "if this is your biological daughter like you claim, you should have no problem proving it. Check the birthmark. Check her dental records. My daughter has a distinctive chip in her right upper molar from a swing accident when she was 5. Marcus exchanged a glance with David. "Ms. Haas, she makes a fair point. I don't have to verify anything to my own security staff." Barbara's composure was cracking, voice rising. "Sophia is my daughter. I have birth certificates, medical records, years of documentation." "Show them the cameras," Sasha said suddenly. "This house has security cameras everywhere. Check your footage from 3 years ago. October 15th. The Riverside Farmers Market. Someone took her. It's all on camera." For a fraction of a second, something flickered across Barbara's face. Fear. "Our security archives only go back 18 months, she said, too quickly. "Storage limitations." Sasha laughed, a wild, desperate sound. "How convenient. A billionaire with unlimited resources can't afford to store more than 18 months of footage. You expect anyone to believe that?" David was looking increasingly uncomfortable, hand moving toward his radio. "Ms. Haas, I think maybe. What about medical records?" Sasha pressed. "If she's been your daughter her whole life, you'll have hospital records from her birth. Pediatric records. Dental x-rays showing that chip. Unless those records don't exist because she didn't become your daughter until 3 years ago. That's enough. Barbara's mask slipped completely, fury replacing cold control. You have no right to make these accusations. But Sasha wasn't looking at Barbara anymore. She was looking at Mia, who stood frozen, tears streaming, hands trembling. Baby, Sasha said softly, all fight draining from her voice, replaced by pure maternal love. I know you're scared. I know you're confused. But please, try to remember. You used to be afraid of thunderstorms. I would hold you and sing until you felt safe. Do you remember the song? Mia's lips parted, breath coming in short gasps. You had a stuffed elephant named Mr. Trumpets, Sasha continued, tears streaming. You took him everywhere. You slept with him every night. Mia's voice was barely audible. I dream about an elephant sometimes. A gray one with a torn ear. And singing. Someone singing to me when it storms. Sophia, stop this, Barbara commanded, but her voice wavered. And you wanted to be a veterinarian, Sasha pressed on. Because you loved animals so much. You begged for a puppy for your 7th birthday. Do you remember? Any of it? Mia's whole body was shaking, hand pressed against her wrist, against that birthmark. I do have dreams. About a smaller apartment. And a woman who looks like you. And storms, and singing, and an elephant, and, her voice rose, panicked. Why do I dream about those things if they're not real? Because they are real. Sasha took a step forward, and this time Marcus didn't stop her. Because I'm your mother. Because someone took you from me and tried to make you forget, but you can't forget completely. Love doesn't forget, baby. Enough. Barbara grabbed Mia's shoulders, spinning the girl away. You're confusing her. Frightening her. Sophia, these are just dreams. Children have active imaginations. You've been drugging her, Sasha said suddenly, pieces clicking together. Haven't you? To suppress her memories. That's why she dreams but can't remember clearly. What have you been giving her? What kind of monster drugs a child to erase their own mother? Barbara's face went white, then red. That is a slanderous, disgusting accusation. Then prove me wrong. Sasha shouted. Call the police. Let them run a DNA test. Let them check her medical history. Let them investigate how a child who went missing 3 years ago ended up in your house with a new name and no memory of her real life. If I'm crazy, if I'm delusional, if I'm wrong, prove it. The silence was deafening. Marcus and David exchanged loaded glances. Mrs. Lauren had backed away, face pale. Mia stood frozen, crying silently, her world visibly fragmenting. And Barbara Haas, billionaire who was always in control, looked cornered. I think, David said slowly, pulling out his phone, we should call the police. Let them sort this out. I am calling my lawyers, Barbara said icily. Call them, Sasha interrupted, her voice steady now with absolute certainty. Call your lawyers. Call your doctors. But explain to them why my daughter is in your house. Explain the birthmark. Explain the dental chip. Explain why she dreams about things from her real life that you've tried to erase. Explain the DNA match that's going to prove she's mine. David had his phone to his ear. Yes, I need police dispatch. We have a situation at 1247, Bellingham Estate Drive. A woman claiming a child here is her missing daughter. We need officers and possibly child services. Barbara's perfect facade crumbled completely. In seconds, she aged 10 years. The polished billionaire disappeared, replaced by someone desperate and trapped. You don't understand, she whispered, and for the first time, her voice was human, vulnerable, even. I couldn't have children. The treatments failed. My husband left me. Everything was falling apart. I just wanted. She stopped herself, but it was too late. The admission hung in the air like a confession. Marcus straightened, hand moving to his radio. Ms. Haas, I think you should stop talking until your lawyers arrive. But Sasha had heard enough. The confirmation she'd needed. This woman had taken her daughter. Stolen her. Tried to erase her real life. And now, finally, the truth was emerging. In the distance, sirens began to wail, growing closer with each passing second. Sasha looked at Mia, who stared back with wide, frightened eyes that were finally starting to recognize what they were seeing. It's okay, baby, Sasha said softly. Mommy's here. I kept my promise. I came back for you. And as police sirens grew louder, closing in on the mansion where lies had been maintained for 3 years, Sasha Johnson allowed herself something she hadn't felt in 1,095 days. Hope. Not the poisonous kind that led to crushing disappointment, but the real thing, grounded in truth, backed by evidence, and fueled by a mother's unbreakable love. The battle for truth wasn't over. But for the first time since that terrible day at the farmer's market, Sasha was winning. Detective Sarah Chin hadn't expected to ever work the Mia Johnson case again. She certainly hadn't expected this. The call had come through dispatch as a possible kidnapping situation at a Bellingham estate address. Chen had been finishing paperwork when she heard the address and felt something tug at her memory. Barbara Haas. Tech billionaire. Lived alone with her daughter. Her daughter who had appeared in her life approximately 3 years ago. Chen had grabbed her keys and driven faster than department policy allowed. Now she stood in the opulent third-floor hallway of Haas Manor, staring at a woman she'd never thought she'd see in circumstances like these. Sasha. Chen's voice came out rough with shock. Sasha Johnson looked up from where 2 security guards had positioned her against the wall, her face streaked with tears but blazing with fierce determination. Detective Chen. Thank God. It's her. It's Mia. I found her. Chen's training kicked in, pushing shock aside. She'd worked the Mia Johnson disappearance 3 years ago. Had spent months following leads that went nowhere. The case had haunted her, stayed with her through dozens of other investigations. She'd promised Sasha they wouldn't stop looking. And then the leads had dried up. The case had gone cold. Until now. Everyone stay calm, Chen said, her voice carrying authority. I need to understand the situation. Ms. Haas, I presume. Barbara Haas stood near the bedroom doorway, one hand on the shoulder of a girl in an expensive velvet dress. She'd regained some composure, though her face was still pale. Detective. Thank you for coming. This woman violated the terms of her employment, trespassed in a restricted area, and has been making disturbing accusations about my daughter. I want her arrested for attempted kidnapping and assault. I didn't assault anyone, Sasha said steadily. That's my daughter. Mia Johnson. She was taken from Riverside Farmers Market on October 15, 3 years ago. I've been searching for her ever since. And she's right there. Chen looked at the child. Really looked. Dark hair. Delicate features. Approximately the right age. And there, on her left wrist, partially visible beneath the velvet sleeve, a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon. Chen's breath caught. She'd seen that birthmark in photographs hundreds of times during those desperate first weeks of investigation. I need to speak with everyone separately, Chen said. Ms. Haas, is there a room we can use? And the child needs to remain with a neutral party during interviews. Absolutely not, Barbara said immediately. Sophia stays with me. Ma'am, I'm going to need your cooperation here. Chen's voice took on an edge. If this is a misunderstanding, separate interviews will clear it up quickly. The child can stay with your housekeeper and security while we talk. That's non-negotiable. Barbara's jaw tightened, but she nodded stiffly. Mrs. Lauren, please take Sophia to the sitting room. The housekeeper moved forward, but the girl remained frozen, staring at Sasha with desperate confusion. It's okay, sweetheart, Sasha said softly. Everything's going to be okay now. Don't speak to her, Barbara snapped. Chen gestured to the guards. Make sure everyone stays separated until I've conducted interviews. Ms. Johnson, you're with me first. 30 minutes later, Chen had Sasha's statement. It was emotional, yes, tearful, but also coherent, specific, and backed by evidence Sasha had kept obsessively organized for 3 years. Photos on her phone showing Mia at every age. The missing persons report with detailed descriptions. Medical records showing the dental chip from a swing accident. Documentation of the birthmark's exact size and location. The birthmark is on her left wrist, Sasha said, pulling up a photo. Crescent moon shape, about the size of a dime. She has it. I saw it. And the way she tilts her head when she's curious, that's Mia's gesture. The gap between her front teeth. Everything about her is Mia, just older. And you're certain? Chen asked, though she already knew the answer. I would know my daughter anywhere, Sasha said simply. In any circumstance. Under any name. That's my child. Chen made notes, then moved to interview Barbara Haas. The billionaire had regained her composure completely. She sat in her home office, all glass and steel and expensive minimalism, with the calm confidence of someone who had answers for everything. This is clearly a case of projection, Barbara said smoothly. Ms. Johnson lost her daughter years ago, tragic, truly. But she's latched onto Sophia because of superficial similarities. It's a psychological response to unresolved trauma. Tell me about Sophia's birth, Chen said, pen poised over her notepad. I gave birth to her 10 years ago at St. Mary's Hospital. Private wing. I had significant medical complications during pregnancy. And the father? We divorced when Sophia was an infant. He's not involved. I'll need documentation. Birth certificate, hospital records, medical history. Of course. Barbara produced a folder as if she'd been expecting the request. Everything is here. Birth certificate, pediatric records, school enrollment. You'll find it all in order. Chen reviewed the documents carefully. Birth certificate from St. Mary's Hospital, dated 10 years ago. Medical records showing regular pediatric visits, vaccinations, developmental milestones. School records from an exclusive private academy. All perfect. All complete. Too complete. Ms. Haas, Chen said slowly, these medical records only go back 32 months. There's nothing before that date. We changed pediatricians, Barbara said without hesitation. I wasn't satisfied with our previous doctor's care. The new practice started fresh files. And the previous doctor's name? Dr. Richard Matthews. He retired and closed his practice. His records were not transferred. How convenient. Chen set down the papers. And Sophia's birth, you said St. Mary's Hospital? Yes. Private wing. I'll need to verify that. Chen pulled out her phone and stepped away, making the call while Barbara watched with barely concealed tension. It took 12 minutes to get through to St. Mary's Records Department. 8 more minutes of searching their database. The answer was exactly what Chen had suspected. She returned to her seat, expression carefully neutral. Ms. Haas, St. Mary's Hospital has no record of your daughter's birth. No admissions under your name during the relevant time period. No birth certificates filed from their facility. Nothing. Barbara's face remained calm, but something flickered in her eyes. That's impossible. There must be some error in their system. Their database is comprehensive and backed up extensively. If you gave birth there, there would be a record. Chen leaned forward. So let's try this again. Where did Sophia really come from? I've told you. You've told me a story. But stories fall apart when you check the facts. No hospital records. Medical files that only go back 32 months. A child who bears a striking resemblance to a missing girl. A birthmark in the exact same location. Chen's voice hardened. I've been doing this job for 15 years, Ms. Haas. I know what a fabricated identity looks like. Barbara said nothing, but her hands trembled slightly as they gripped the chair arms. Where is Sophia? In the sitting room with Mrs. Lauren and the guards. I need to examine her. The birthmark, specifically. And I'll need to check her dental records, the real ones, not whatever's in this folder. You can't just examine my daughter without my consent. I can if I have probable cause to believe she's a missing child. And right now, Ms. Haas, I have a lot of probable cause. In the sitting room, Chen found Mia. She was already thinking of her as Mia, sitting on a velvet settee with hands folded in her lap. Perfect posture of a child trained in etiquette. But her eyes were red from crying, and she kept touching her left wrist unconsciously. Sasha sat across the room, forbidden from approaching but unable to look away from her daughter. Sophia, Chen said gently, kneeling to the girl's level. My name is Detective Chen. I need to ask you some questions. Is that okay? The girl nodded, practiced politeness firmly in place. Can I see your left wrist? Just for a moment. Slowly, hesitantly, Mia extended her arm. Chen pushed up the velvet sleeve, and there it was, the crescent moon birthmark, exactly as described in every missing persons report. Exactly as shown in Sasha's photographs. Thank you, Chen said softly. One more thing. Would you open your mouth for me? I need to check your teeth. Mia complied, and Chen saw it immediately, the chip in the right upper molar. Not a recent injury. Old enough to be from a childhood accident 3 years ago. Chen stood, heart pounding. Every piece of physical evidence matched. But she needed more. Sasha, she called across the room. May I see your phone? Sasha practically ran over, pulling up her photo gallery with shaking hands. Here. Everything. All of it. Chen took the phone and sat down beside Mia. I'd like to show you some pictures. Just tell me what you think of them. She started with Mia's 6th birthday party. The video showed a little girl in a purple dress, laughing as she blew out candles shaped like the number 6. A woman's voice, Sasha's voice, sang "Happy Birthday" off-key in the background. Mia stared at the screen, breath-catching. That's. She leaned closer. That girl looks like me. Keep watching, Chen said gently. More videos. More photos. Mia at the park. Mia chasing pigeons. Mia asleep with a gray stuffed elephant tucked under her arm. With each image, the girl's carefully constructed facade cracked a little more. Her hands trembled. Tears formed. Her breathing became uneven. That little girl, she said, voice breaking. She looks exactly like me. Like me when I was younger. But that's impossible. I don't remember. Mrs. Haas says I've always lived here. But these pictures. What do you remember? Chen asked softly. In your dreams? An elephant. A gray elephant with a torn ear. And singing. Someone singing to me when it storms. And a small apartment with yellow walls. And a woman who looked like, she stopped, staring at Sasha. Like her. From across the room, Sasha was crying silently, pressing her hand against her mouth. That is you, baby, she whispered. In those pictures. That's you before they took you. Mia looked at the phone in Chen's hands, then at Sasha, then at her own wrist where the birthmark seemed to burn beneath her skin. But Mrs. Haas says I'm Sophia. I've always been Sophia. She's my mother. What if she's not? Chen asked gently. The question hung in the air, and Mia's entire world seemed to fracture around it. Chen left the sitting room and found Barbara Haas standing in the hallway, face ashen. Behind her, David the security guard had his phone out. Ms. Haas, Chen said. I need access to your security systems. All of them. Including archived and deleted files. You can't, you need a warrant. I can get one. It'll take a few hours. Or you can cooperate now. Chen stepped closer. St. Mary's Hospital has no record of Sophia's birth. Her medical records only go back 32 months. She has physical characteristics that exactly match a missing child. And she's showing signs of repressed memories surfacing. Chen pulled out her handcuffs. So let's stop playing games. Where did Sophia really come from? Barbara's mask finally, completely shattered. She aged a decade in seconds, shoulders slumping, perfect posture collapsing. You don't understand, she whispered, voice hollow. You can't understand what it's like. The treatments that failed. The husband who left because I couldn't give him a child. The board questioning my stability because a woman without a family can't be trusted with a company. Everything I built was falling apart because I couldn't be a mother. So you bought one. Chen's voice was ice. Barbara sank into a chair, looking at her hands. I hired someone. Someone who finds children for people like me. People who can't have their own. People who are desperate enough to pay any price. The confession fell into the silence like a bomb. Chen's hand tightened on her handcuffs. Who? Who did you hire? His name is Marcus Reed. Barbara's voice was empty now, all fight gone. He specializes in acquisitions. I paid him $500,000. He found her. Took her. Brought her to me. And the memory suppression? Dr. Raymond Voss. He's a psychiatrist. He has methods. Drugs. Therapy. Ways to reshape a child's memories. Make them believe a different history. It takes time, but it works. Chen felt sick. You drugged a 7-year-old child to erase her mother from her memory. I gave her a better life. Barbara's voice rose, desperate. Look at this house. Everything she could want. The finest education. Every opportunity. What did she have before? A single mother cleaning houses, living in poverty. She had love, Chen said coldly. She had a mother who spent 3 years searching for her. Who never stopped believing she was alive. Who just found her and fought tooth and nail to get her back. She pulled out her phone. Barbara Haas, you're under arrest for kidnapping, child trafficking, and conspiracy to commit child abuse. You have the right to remain silent. As Chen read the Miranda rights, sirens grew louder outside. Federal agents were arriving to secure the scene and begin a full investigation. And in the sitting room, Sasha Johnson finally allowed herself to cross the distance to her daughter. Mia, she whispered, kneeling in front of her. Baby. I kept my promise. Mommy came back. The girl stared at her, tears streaming down her face, a decade of false memories warring with deep, primal recognition. And then, in a voice barely audible, she said the word that shattered 3 years of lies. Mommy. What Barbara Haas revealed in the next 3 hours would shake the foundations of law enforcement across 12 states. Detective Chen had moved the interrogation to Barbara's home office. Federal agents were en route, but Chen couldn't wait. Every minute that passed was a minute Marcus Reed and his network had to cover their tracks, destroy evidence, disappear. Barbara sat across from her, no longer the polished billionaire but a broken woman staring at the ruins of everything she'd built. Chen's phone recorded every word. His name is Marcus Reed, Barbara began, voice flat and hollow. He specializes in acquisitions. You mean kidnapping children? He doesn't use that word. He calls it family placement services for unconventional circumstances. Barbara laughed, a bitter, empty sound. Corporate speak for stealing children and selling them to people desperate enough to pay. How did you find him? I didn't. He found me. Barbara stared at her hands. After my 5th IVF failure. After my husband left. After the board started questioning whether a woman without children could truly understand family values enough to run a company that markets to families. Her voice took on a desperate edge. I was falling apart. My reputation was crumbling. Marcus approached me at a charity gala. Said he could tell I was suffering, that he helped people in situations like mine. He made it sound almost reasonable. Chen's stomach turned, but she kept her voice neutral. What did he promise you? A child who would be perfect. Who would fit seamlessly into my life. Who no one would miss too much. Barbara's voice dropped to a whisper. He said the targeting was careful. Single mothers, working class, no wealthy family to fund extensive searches. No fathers in the picture to make noise. Women who were already struggling, so when their children disappeared, the investigations would be underfunded. Understaffed. Likely to go cold. Chen finished the thought, fury building in her chest. How much did you pay? $500,000. Half up front, half upon delivery. Barbara said it like discussing a business transaction. He showed me photos of potential acquisitions. Children between ages 4 and 8. He said those ages were optimal, old enough to be independent but young enough to have malleable memories. Chen's hand tightened on her pen. And you chose Mia. Her mother had an Instagram account. Public. Photos of Mia everywhere, birthday parties, first days of school, trips to the park. Marcus said it was perfect for assessment. I could see her personality, her mannerisms, what she liked. Barbara's eyes took on a distant quality. She looked like I did as a child. Dark hair, delicate features. It felt like fate. She was already someone's, Chen said coldly. She was Sasha Johnson's daughter. She had a mother who loved her. A mother who was cleaning houses for minimum wage. Who could barely afford their apartment. Barbara's voice rose, defensive. I gave her everything. The finest education, the best healthcare. You gave her trauma, Chen interrupted. You stole her from her mother and erased her memories. Tell me about October 15th. How did it happen? Barbara deflated again. Marcus had a female accomplice. They watched the farmer's market for 3 weeks, studying patterns, identifying the best moment. That day, when Sasha was distracted paying for strawberries, the woman approached Mia. Chen felt sick. What did she say? She asked Mia to help find a lost puppy. Said it was around the corner, just out of sight. Marcus knew Mia's personality from the Instagram photos, knew she was kind, helpful, taught to assist people in need. Barbara's voice cracked. She followed willingly. By the time Sasha turned around, 45 seconds had passed. They had her in a van, drugged and unconscious. Where did they take her? A facility. 2 states away. I don't know exactly where, Marcus never told me locations. She was there for 6 months before I received her. Chen's head snapped up. 6 months. What were they doing to her for 6 months? Preparation. Barbara couldn't meet her eyes. Dr. Raymond Voss, a psychiatrist Marcus works with, he has methods. Experimental drugs that suppress memory formation. Psychological conditioning. Therapy sessions designed to implant false memories and erase real ones. It takes time to reshape a child's understanding of their own history. You mean brainwashing? You mean drugging a 7-year-old child until she forgot her own mother? It's more complex than that. No, Chen said flatly. It's exactly that simple. You paid someone to kidnap a child, drug her, and torture her psychologically until she forgot the woman who gave birth to her. Tell me about the drugs. Barbara pulled out her phone with shaking hands, opening files. Dr. Voss provided detailed protocols. Memory suppressants disguised as vitamins. Administered daily. They don't erase memories entirely, that's impossible, but they make them foggy, dreamlike, easy to dismiss as imagination. How long did this continue? The full treatment lasted 18 months. After that, maintenance doses. Lower frequency, just enough to keep the old memory suppressed. Barbara looked up, tears in her eyes now. But they were coming back anyway. The dreams. She'd wake up crying, talking about an elephant, about singing. I'd have Dr. Voss increase the dosage, but it wasn't working as well anymore. Because love doesn't forget, Chen said quietly. No matter how many drugs you pump into a child, she remembers her mother. Where is Marcus Reed now? I don't know. He moves constantly. But I have everything else. Barbara gestured to her computer. Bank records showing all transactions. Communication logs, emails, encrypted messages. His phone numbers, though he changes them frequently. Known associates. Everything. Chen pulled the computer toward her, already texting the federal agents. What about Dr. Voss? He has a practice in the city. Legitimate on the surface, child psychology, trauma therapy. But his real business is this. He has a facility somewhere, where he works with Marcus's acquisitions. A facility? Chen's blood ran cold. How many children? I don't know. I only know about Sophia, about Mia. But Marcus. Barbara's voice dropped to a whisper. He said he'd been doing this for 8 years. He said I was joining an exclusive network of people who'd found alternative paths to parenthood. He was running a child trafficking ring, Chen said, voice shaking with barely controlled rage. And you were a customer. Who else? I don't know names. Marcus kept clients separated for security. But he said there were others. Wealthy people who couldn't have children through traditional means. He said his network spanned multiple states. Chen stood abruptly, pulling out her phone. I'm calling in the FBI. This is bigger than one kidnapping. While Chen coordinated with federal agents, Sasha remained in the sitting room with Mia. She pulled up more photos on her phone, 3 years' worth of memories preserved. This was your 6th birthday, Sasha said softly, showing a video of Mia opening presents. You wanted a veterinarian kit so badly. On screen, young Mia squealed with delight, pulling plastic medical tools from a box. The girl beside her watched with tears streaming. I remember that feeling. Being excited. But I thought it was a dream. It wasn't a dream, baby. It was real. Our life together was real. Sasha swiped to another video, Mia's first day of kindergarten, nervous in a backpack too big for her. I was scared, Mia whispered. I remember being scared. And you held my hand and said, "You're going to make so many friends," Sasha finished, voice breaking. "You're going to have the best day." I did make friends. There was a boy named Tommy and a girl named Elena and, Mia stopped, eyes widening. I remember them. I remember actual faces, not just dreams. How is that possible? Mrs. Haas was lying to you, sweetheart. She took you from me. She paid people to make you forget. But you're remembering now. You're coming back to me. Sasha pulled up another video, Mia asleep in their tiny apartment, Mr. Trumpets tucked under her arm. And something in Mia's mind finally, completely broke through the barriers. Mr. Trumpets. Her voice rose, panicked and desperate. His ear was torn because I loved him too hard. We got him at a yard sale and you said he needed someone to love him. And you sang to me. You sang when it stormed because I was scared. And our apartment had yellow walls and I had a purple dress and we were going to make a birthday cake with purple frosting and... Yes. Sasha was sobbing now. Yes, baby, yes. You remember. I remember our apartment. I remember you. I remember, Mia's voice broke. Mommy? It wasn't a question this time. It was recognition. Complete, certain, devastating recognition. I'm here, baby, Sasha choked out. Mommy's here. And then Mia was in her arms, 3 years of separation exploding into a desperate embrace. The girl sobbed against her mother's shoulder, hands clutching at Sasha's shirt like she might disappear. Years of suppressed memories came flooding back. I thought you left me, Mia cried. I had dreams about you leaving me and I thought you didn't want me anymore and... Never. Never, never, never. Sasha rocked her daughter, pressing kisses to her hair. I never stopped looking. Not for one day. I promised I'd come back, and I kept that promise. In Barbara's office, Chen's phone buzzed with an urgent message. The federal cyber team had remotely accessed Barbara's computer systems, and what they'd found was staggering. Chen walked back into the office, face ashen. Ms. Haas, she said, voice shaking. This wasn't just about you wanting a child. Barbara looked up, confused. What? The federal team just accessed your encrypted files. All of them. Chen turned her laptop around, showing a directory of folders. Each labeled with initials and dates. There are 17 files here. 17 children. Complete with before and after photos. Current locations. New identities. The color drained from Barbara's face. That's not mine. That's Marcus's, he must have put it on my system for backup. You facilitated this, Chen said, voice hard. You didn't just buy one child. You helped Marcus recruit other clients. Your emails show you recommending his services to at least 3 other people. This wasn't just about your desperation. This was a business. And you were part of it. Barbara's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Barbara Haas, Chen said as federal agents flooded into the manor, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit child trafficking, kidnapping, and accessory to 17 counts of child abduction. You're facing federal charges across multiple states. Barbara didn't resist. She simply stood there, broken, as everything she'd built crumbled into dust. And in the sitting room, Sasha Johnson held her daughter and whispered promises into her hair. "We're going home, baby. We're going home together. And no one will ever take you from me again." Outside, sirens filled the air as the full force of federal law enforcement descended on Haas Manor. 17 missing children were about to be found. And a trafficking network that had operated in shadows for 8 years was about to be dragged into the light. Within 72 hours, the Haas Manor investigation became the largest child trafficking case in federal history. Detective Sarah Chen stood in the FBI's command center, watching multiple screens displaying simultaneous raids across 12 states. Each screen showed federal agents executing warrants, breaching doors, securing locations that had been part of Marcus Reed's network for nearly a decade. It was 6:47 a.m. on the third day since Sasha Johnson had climbed those forbidden stairs and found her daughter. "Target acquired in Miami," a voice crackled through the radio. "Marcus Reed in custody. No resistance." Chen felt a surge of fierce satisfaction. They'd caught him before he could run, barely. Reed had been in his penthouse apartment packing go-bags when agents breached the door. On his desk, forged birth certificates for 3 more children, acquisition contracts half completed, and a burner phone with messages arranging a meeting with a prospective client in 2 days. 3 more children who would never be stolen. Dr. Raymond Voss secured, another voice reported. Files recovered from his office. Preliminary count shows documentation for at least 37 identity reconstructions over 8 years. 37 children. Chen's stomach turned. By noon, the raids were complete. The scoreboard on the main screen told a story that would dominate news cycles for months. 23 locations raided across 12 states. 8 wealthy parents arrested. 17 stolen children recovered. 12 corrupt officials arrested. Evidence seized, 847 documents, 23 computers, 156 encrypted communications. The media had gotten wind of it within hours. By the second day, Barbara Haas's arrest was the lead story on every major news network. Tech billionaire arrested in child trafficking scandal. Massive child abduction network dismantled. The children who disappeared, inside America's darkest adoption ring. Chen headed to the hospital where Sasha and Mia were being kept under protective custody. The pediatric wing of St. Catherine's Hospital had been transformed into a secure facility. Federal marshals stood at every entrance. Inside room 347, Sasha sat on a cot next to Mia's hospital bed, just as she had for the past 72 hours. She hadn't left her daughter's side. Not for a moment. Mia was asleep now, finally, after another night of screaming nightmares. The medical team had explained that the memory suppression drugs had caused significant neurological effects. Mia's brain was essentially at war with itself, 3 years of false memories colliding with recovered real ones, creating confusion, terror, and dissociation. "She'll ask me who I am," Sasha had told the doctors that first night, voice hollow with exhaustion. "She'll recognize me, call me mommy, and then 10 minutes later she'll ask who I am and where Mrs. Haas is. She doesn't know what's real anymore." The neurologist, Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, had been gentle but honest. "The drugs Dr. Voss used, we've never seen anything quite like this combination. It's not just memory suppression. He was essentially rewriting her neural pathways. The good news is she's young. Her brain has remarkable plasticity. But recovery will take time. Possibly years. Years. Sasha had 3 years stolen from her. And now they faced years more of helping Mia piece together her fractured identity. But at least they'd face it together. Detective Chen knocked softly before entering, carrying coffee and a folder. Sasha looked up, eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep but alert. "How is she?" Chen asked quietly. "Sleeping. Finally." Sasha brushed hair back from Mia's face with infinite tenderness. She had nightmares about the facility last night. Kept saying she was in a white room and someone was asking her questions, over and over, until she couldn't remember the right answers anymore. Chen's jaw tightened. I have updates. All 17 children have been identified. We're coordinating reunions with their families. Sasha's eyes widened. 17 families are getting their children back. Thanks to you. If you hadn't found Mia, if you hadn't pushed, this network would still be operating. Chen opened her folder. The children range from age 4 to 12. They've been missing anywhere from 1 year to 8 years. Some remember their real families. Others. She paused. Others are like Mia. They've been reprogrammed so thoroughly they don't recognize their own parents. God. Sasha looked at her sleeping daughter. Those poor families. Those poor children. We're bringing in specialist therapists. Dr. Okonkwo is consulting on all 17 cases. The FBI is covering all medical and psychological care. Chen pulled out photos. I thought you'd want to see them. The children you saved. She spread photographs across the table. 17 faces. 17 stolen lives now being returned. A 4-year-old girl taken from a grocery store in Oregon, now living with a software executive in Seattle. Twin brothers, age 6, abducted from their grandmother's backyard in Texas, now separated and living with different families in California and Nevada. A 12-year-old boy who'd been missing for 8 years, who didn't remember his name anymore, who thought he was someone else entirely. Sasha touched each photo with trembling fingers. Are they going home? We're working on it. Some reunifications will be straightforward. Others will require extensive therapy first. A few of the children are so confused they're terrified of their real parents, clinging to the people who took them. Chen's voice was heavy. This is going to be complicated. Painful. But yes, they're all going home eventually. What about the people who bought them? 8 arrests so far. All facing federal charges: kidnapping, conspiracy to commit child trafficking, child abuse, fraud. Do you believe they didn't know? No, Chen said flatly. $500,000 in cash. No legal paperwork. Children with no documentation before a certain date. Memory suppression drugs disguised as vitamins. They knew. They just didn't care because they got what they wanted. A soft knock interrupted them. Federal prosecutor Diane Walsh entered, a woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and the bearing of someone who'd spent decades in courtrooms. Ms. Johnson, she said, extending a hand. I'm Diane Walsh. I'll be prosecuting this case. Do you have a moment? Sasha glanced at Mia, still sleeping, then nodded. Walsh sat down, pulling out her own folder. I'll be direct. We're fast-tracking this case. The evidence is overwhelming: Barbara Haas's own confession, financial records, communications logs, the children themselves. We have 17 victims across multiple states, which makes this a federal conspiracy case. How long until trial? 6 months. We're pushing for the earliest possible date. The defendants include Barbara Haas, Marcus Reed, Dr. Raymond Voss, the 8 parents who purchased children, and 12 corrupt officials who falsified documents. Walsh paused. This is going to be the largest child trafficking trial in U.S. history. What do you need from me? Your testimony. You're the linchpin, the mother who never gave up, who found her daughter against impossible odds, who exposed this entire network. Your story will resonate with the jury in ways evidence alone cannot. I'll do it. Whatever you need. What about Mia? Walsh's expression softened. I know she's struggling. We have enough evidence to convict without her testimony, and given her age and psychological state, I'm hesitant to put her through that trauma." Relief flooded Sasha's face. "Thank you. She's been through enough." However, Walsh continued, there may be pre-trial proceedings where her medical records and psychological evaluations will be admitted as evidence. The defense will argue, and I want you to be prepared for this, that Mia's confusion about her identity proves she genuinely bonded with Barbara Haas, that she was happy, that her removal is traumatic. Sasha's hands clenched into fists. She was drugged. Brainwashed. They stole her memories. I know. And will prove that. But you need to be ready for them to twist this any way they can. Walsh stood. The trial is set for 6 months from now. Until then, focus on your daughter's recovery. We'll handle the legal battle. After Walsh left, Chen remained, watching Sasha stroke Mia's hair with infinite gentleness. How are you holding up? Chen asked quietly. I found her. I got her back. Everything else is just. Sasha's voice cracked. Just details we'll figure out. 6 months later, Sasha and Mia sat together in federal court, holding hands, ready to face the woman who had stolen 3 years of their lives. The courthouse steps were packed with media, cameras, reporters, satellite trucks broadcasting live. This wasn't just a trial anymore. It had become a cultural moment, a reckoning with how wealth and privilege could corrupt the most fundamental human bonds. Sasha squeezed Mia's hand as they approached the entrance. Her daughter wore a simple blue dress, her choice, after months of refusing to touch anything that reminded her of the expensive clothes Barbara had dressed her in. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked like herself again. Like Mia. But the trauma still lingered in her eyes, in the way she startled at sudden sounds, in the nightmares that still came on difficult nights. You don't have to go in, Sasha said softly, giving her daughter one last out. You can wait outside with Detective Chen. No. Mia's voice was quiet but firm. I want to see it. I want to see her face when they tell her what she did was wrong. They entered together, passing through security alongside 16 other families, the parents and children who had been torn apart by Marcus Reed's network and were now rebuilding their shattered lives. They were all here. All 17 families. A united front of survivors. The courtroom was massive, designed for high-profile federal cases, and every seat was filled. In the front row, the families, mothers and fathers and children who had lived through their own versions of this nightmare. Sasha and Mia took their seats just as the side door opened. Barbara Haas entered in a prison jumpsuit, hands cuffed in front of her. The transformation was startling. Gone was the polished billionaire in designer clothes and perfect makeup. This woman looked diminished, aged, broken. Her platinum blonde bob had grown out, showing gray roots. Her face was bare of makeup. She scanned the courtroom, and her eyes landed on Mia. For a moment, something flickered across her face, regret. Longing. But when Mia looked away, refusing to meet her eyes, Barbara's face crumpled before she forced it back into a mask of composure. All rise. The Honorable Judge Richard Morrison presiding. Judge Morrison was a black man in his 60s, known throughout the federal judiciary for his harsh sentences in exploitation cases. Be seated, Morrison said, his deep voice filling the courtroom. We are here today for the sentencing of Barbara Haas and 14 co-defendants. This case involves multiple counts of kidnapping, human trafficking, conspiracy, and related charges across 12 states. Federal Prosecutor Diane Walsh stood, commanding the courtroom's attention. Over the next 2 hours, she systematically presented the evidence. Bank records showing Barbara's $500,000 payment to Marcus Reed. Medical records documenting the experimental memory suppression drugs. Communication logs showing Barbara's evolution from client to facilitator, emails recommending Marcus Reed services to other wealthy individuals. Security footage from the Manor's cloud backup showing Mia's arrival 3 years ago, a drugged, confused 7-year-old being carried into the house. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m., October 16, barely 36 hours after her abduction. The courtroom sat in stunned silence as Dr. Raymond Voss, testifying as a cooperating witness, described the preparation process in clinical terms. The child arrived with strong attachment to her biological mother. My role was to systematically weaken that attachment through pharmacological intervention and psychological reconditioning. How long did this process take? Walsh asked. 6 months of intensive treatment. Then ongoing maintenance therapy and medication for the next 2.5 years. Several people in the gallery gasped. Marcus Reed testified next, showing no remorse, treating his crimes like a business venture. I identified target demographics, single mothers, working class, limited resources. I'd surveil the families for weeks, learning routines, identifying vulnerabilities. The abductions themselves took less than a minute. How many children did you take? Walsh asked. 17 that I successfully placed with clients. 3 more were in process when I was arrested. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. Judge Morrison called for sentencing of the co-defendants first. Marcus Reed, life imprisonment without possibility of parole. Dr. Raymond Voss, 35 years in federal prison. He wept as the sentence was read. The 8 wealthy parents, sentences ranging from 15 to 40 years. The corrupt officials, various sentences that would end their careers and lives as they knew them. Finally, it was Barbara's turn. Federal Prosecutor Walsh delivered her closing statement, voice ringing with moral clarity. Your Honor, these children were not orphans waiting to be rescued. They were stolen from parents who loved them, who searched for them, who never stopped hoping. Ms. Haas and her accomplices didn't just commit crimes against individual victims. They shattered families, traumatized children, and corrupted the very concept of parenthood for their own selfish desires. Walsh turned to face Barbara directly. The defendant will claim she was desperate, that she wanted a child so badly she lost her way. But desperation doesn't justify evil. Wanting something doesn't give you the right to steal it. And money, no amount of money, can replace what she took from these families. Judge Morrison nodded slowly, then addressed Barbara. Ms. Haas, do you wish to address the court before sentencing? Barbara stood, and for the first time since her arrest, the mask fell away completely. She looked at the families in the gallery, at the parents whose lives she'd helped destroy, at the children whose identities she'd helped erase. Then she looked at Mia. I can't undo what I've done, she said, voice barely audible. I told myself I was giving her a better life. That I was rescuing her from poverty, from struggle. But I was lying to myself. I was selfish. I wanted a child so badly that I convinced myself the ends justified the means. Her voice broke. I stole a child. I drugged her. I tried to erase her mother from her memory. There's no forgiveness for that. There shouldn't be. She looked at Mia one last time. Sophia, Mia, I'm sorry. You deserved a mother who would love you, not one who would steal you. You deserved better than what I did to you. Mia's hand tightened around Sasha's, but she said nothing. She didn't owe Barbara words or forgiveness or anything at all. Judge Morrison called for victim impact statements. One by one, parents approached the podium. A father whose twin sons had been separated spoke about years of not knowing if they were alive. A mother whose daughter still called her by the wrong name spoke about the agony of being forgotten by your own child. Each story was devastating. Then it was Sasha's turn. She stood, walked to the podium, and looked directly at Barbara Haas. "You tried to erase my daughter's memory," Sasha said, voice steady and strong. "You tried to erase me. You thought you could buy your way into motherhood, that money could replace love, that luxury could substitute for belonging." She paused. "But love doesn't forget. It doesn't disappear just because it's convenient for you. My daughter remembered me through drugs, through years of manipulation, through everything you did to destroy our bond. Because real love, real family, it can't be bought, stolen, or erased." Sasha's eyes filled with tears, but her voice never wavered. "You took 3 years from us. 3 years of birthdays and bedtime stories and everyday moments we'll never get back. You traumatized my daughter so deeply that she still wakes up screaming, not sure which life is real. You made her doubt her own memories, her own identity, her own mother." She leaned forward slightly. "But you also gave me something. Proof that nothing, absolutely nothing, can break the bond between a mother and her child. You drugged her, manipulated her, tried to make her into someone else. And she still remembered. She still found her way back to me." Sasha felt Mia's presence behind her, solid and real and home. "So thank you, Ms. Haas. Thank you for showing me that love is stronger than money, stronger than drugs, stronger than 3 years of lies. Thank you for proving that when you love someone truly, you never stop fighting for them. And they never stop fighting to come back to you." She returned to her seat, and Mia immediately grabbed her hand, squeezing tight. Judge Morrison took a long moment before speaking. "Ms. Haas, you orchestrated a criminal enterprise that destroyed families and traumatized children for nearly a decade. You didn't just purchase one child, you facilitated a network that stole 17 children from their families. Your wealth and position, rather than mitigating your crimes, make them more egregious." He paused, voice growing harder. "You are sentenced to 45 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. You will spend the rest of your life paying for what you've done, though no amount of time could ever truly balance the scales of justice for your victims." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Barbara's legs buckled, and she collapsed into her chair as marshals moved forward. As they led her away, she looked back one final time at Mia. But Mia was looking at her mother, not at the woman who had stolen her. Outside the courthouse, media swarmed, but Chen and federal marshals had arranged a side exit. Sasha and Mia slipped away to a waiting car, leaving the circus behind. 1 year after the trial, federal legislation passed requiring DNA databases for all missing children and mandatory psychological evaluations for private adoptions. The Mia Johnson Act closed loopholes that traffickers like Marcus Reed had exploited for years. 17 families were rebuilding their lives. Some children had recovered their memories fully. Others still struggled with fractured identities. But they were all home, all safe, all surrounded by people who loved them for who they really were. Sasha and Mia attended therapy together twice a week. Dr. Okonkwo said Mia's progress was remarkable, but warned that trauma this deep would take years to fully process. But there would also be healing. One evening, 18 months after that day in the mansion, a thunderstorm rolled through their neighborhood. Sasha was in the kitchen when she heard Mia's bedroom door open. Her daughter appeared in pajamas, clutching Mr. Trumpets, the stuffed elephant Sasha had kept for 3 years, the one Mia had reclaimed the moment they came home. His torn ear had been carefully stitched, but the repair was visible. Some wounds left scars, even when they healed. "Can I sleep with you tonight?" Mia asked softly. "Always, baby. Always." They climbed into bed together in their modest apartment, not a mansion with 40 rooms, but a home filled with real memories and authentic love. Thunder rumbled outside, and Mia pressed closer to her mother. "Will you sing it?" she asked. "Our song." Through tears, happy tears this time, Sasha began to sing. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. And Mia, her voice soft but sure, sang along. The melody found its way home, just like she had. They stayed like that as the storm passed, Mia gradually relaxing into sleep in her mother's arms, Mr. Trumpets tucked between them. Sasha watched her daughter's peaceful face and whispered the words she'd repeated every night since bringing her home. I kept my promise, sweetheart. Mommy came back. Outside, the rain slowed to a gentle patter. Inside, a mother and daughter who had been torn apart were whole again. Not unchanged, trauma had left its marks on both of them. But together. Home. Sometimes the most terrifying truth is how easily evil people believe their cruelty is kindness. But love always knows the difference. Love always finds its way home. If you're hearing this right now, you're not just a viewer, you're a supporter. Staying till the end means you gave this story your time, and that matters. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and let me know in the comments which part stood out to you the most. Sharing the video helps the story reach others who might need it too.